Good evening and welcome to a new edition of To The Point. This evening we'll be discussing a number of issues. One of those issues is Egyptian-European relations, economic relations specifically. Where do they stand? With us on the
Here, thank you for
relations recently.
and that make not free decision and resolution. We wish them to take compromises by all the participants. But France is heavyweight in the political affairs of Europe. But it doesn't work. Germany is also essential and is the heavyweight in economic and financial aspect due to its, very much developed industry, technology, etc. Also, France is very advanced in technology too. And in economic, therefore, I would say that the two main countries on which we can obtain results in favor of Egypt are essentially France and Germany, taking consideration also the importance of other countries, I would not say much less important, but still in a different approach, like Spain. But we have received the Prime Minister of Spain recently, and I think historically Spain has taken position in favor of Egypt. Italy too, also there have some frictions recently, the last few years, but at the end of the day, it is the voice of France and Germany who will dictate the nature of relations. However, I want to say and remind everybody of something very important, which General de Gaulle, President of France, before he became the president at the end of World War II, in a visit to the Soviet Union, meeting with President with Stalin, say something extremely important. States in countries, states do not have friends; they have interests, and this is an essential thing in the of called the Big Brother. And Germany will continue looking at the relationships, and Egypt has to be looking for its own interests, which are not limited to the economy, because the economy is subject to political of economy, and that's the subject. Therefore, we have to continue working closely with France, Germany essentially, and Italy, and in the Western border in Libya, with interference of the, I would not call Turkey, but the renewed Ottoman aspirations in the South Mediterranean. It's important to continue cooperating with Greece, with Cyprus, because France and Germany will continue to act in solidarity within the European Union, or between the two countries, Cyprus and whose half of it, as the north of it, is occupied by Turkey. An important point is India, Europe is not always in total agreement with Europe concerning the situation in this.
So you just mentioned Germany. France and Germany are really being tested right now due to COVID-19. We have almost 50,000 cases per day in those countries. And France is about to embark on elections early next year. Is this going to affect their political and economic conduct with Egypt and this region, in your opinion?
It's a much interesting question. It's a much interesting question. I think the situation of COVID, which has led at a certain moment for a rate of unemployment in most European countries around 40%, will affect the role of Germany on the side. But we have to fully to large extent with they will always find a way to progress. I think Egypt is on a begging situation under a system of financial system, and we should become best to be a full partner in the relationship on almost an equal footing of giving and taking based on the mutual interest. Therefore, even if this situation of COVID, even if this situation would affect eventually life, this situation on the short term, countries and history is made of decades and centuries. Therefore, it will redress if it happens very, very much shortly after the election period and after the COVID-19 situation.
Could Egypt be a gateway for businessmen in Europe to invest in businesses, grow outside their countries, and maybe help their ailing economies? Can we be an opportunity for saving businesses in Europe that are ailing right now?
It's a complicated question. It's a very complicated question. Europe and a countries. The states will not and cannot interfere excessively with the role the private sector is playing.
Yes.
As a German corporation or independent corporation, they are profit organizations. They will always look for interest. But there is excellent example. Siemens in cooperation with Egypt has signed and is working on very long term, I would say a decade or two, of mutual interest in terms of technology, joint efforts in joint, I would say, manufacturing of electricity units, of railway transportation, and others. Therefore, basing our policy on context with states is not. We are working, I believe, very seriously, private sector in most of the other field of armament is France, etc. Important. But Egypt, I think it's the right policy, is keeping a diversification of its sources of economic relationship, not limiting it to Europe only. We are working seriously with China on many projects, with Russia, which I believe civilian nuclear station in Daba is Russia, and that's a major, very long-term project of 4 stations. I think we keep also some good relationship with on the economic side with the U.S. That's important. I would love to see it becoming the real bridge between Europe and the African continent. And the emerging, re-emergent industry in Egypt, in cooperation with Europe, to be able to have a close relationship, export and import equal, I would say, for countries in the continent. That's important for Egypt. Not to have only a vertical relationship, in the Middle East, but also a horizontal relationship with Middle East countries, but a vertical also relationship from north to south, and there is some projects, and I hope to see some complete soon. Addition trade in other African countries, and Cape Town, to facilitate stability in Sudan, in Ethiopia, and as a country. There is also this project. Egypt has done Egypt to all countries of Central, the Democratic Congo, which is a very, very big country, 5 times the size of simply one the Republic of South Africa. Keep in mind that all those things can progress if we keep consistency in our efforts with Europe, with Africa, like we have in these countries. Consistency on long term. Those things are not for a year or two, are not for a decade. They are implemented as a result of relationship.
As we talk, our Prime Minister was held under the title of Accessibility and Emergence in the Post-Coronavirus World. In your opinion, what are the critical challenges that face this continent right now?
The major challenge has been indicated and pursued by the President, the head of state in France during 2 last visits he made. He had what established. And President Sisi has called for a restructure of the and reviewing it in a positive way to allow this extreme not progress until to be very, very difficult. I indicated this before in another intervention. There is a COVID in Europe, etc. It's also difficult, but can happen because, as I said, also the European private corporations are independent units. They are multinational. They almost have no real nationality. Nobody knows exactly who are owners, with the board, etc. They subdivide in many other companies, and the state cannot impose on them exactly what to do, and to stop exploiting the resources of Africa. You know, in real terms, is a crucial is limited. Probably we need to continue working, and I think the Egyptian diplomacy is doing well in its relation with the sub-Saharan African countries. Is doing very well, but my apprehension is that this can be limited to few activities, few years, and not a strategy for centuries. That's very important. I repeat the word I said: the consistency in the effort will convince African states that we are a real partner, a real player, made from the continent for the defense of Europe, trying to obtain a few contracts to make, I would say, whatever. Good, has to continue. I regret that many of the ministers of those countries do not visit Egypt, and many of our ministers, I would say, below the president, other than the Minister Shukri, do not visit their counterparts in this country. I regret that we don't have constant relationship with parliamentarians in those countries. That the civil society has to work with the civil society of the country. This is how relations are made. And we have to develop that and not limit intervention to the head of state only and to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. We have to expand our relationship on a friendly basis with everybody, establish the link, the confidence building with all those countries for their benefit and for our benefit too.
With regards to one of the critical files in this region is terrorism. How do you see Europe consolidating efforts with our continent to resolve this issue, and how do you think what kind of issues can be agreed upon in this seventh session or the seventh forum, which really is entitled Security and Peace and Security, and you cannot have peace or security in this continent with any terror pockets?
Yes, you mentioned what's important to say, because you know, to identify essentially with terrorism in the continent is not so spread as we may think. There is cooperation, I'm sure, I don't know, but it's part of the countries, measuring the continent places, has been transferred of various activities to the Sahel region. I would absolutely no, there is no country but no terrorism. Terrorism happens in France, happens in Egypt, it happens in Spain, and everywhere. But in the south part of Africa, it's limited. The danger is in the region Sahel, you know, it's just below the North African country, below Algeria, below Morocco, below Tunisia, and Libya. But you will check a country which is a solid country, for example, and combating terrorism very good, very well, It's Chad, for example. I would not say it's empty. It's a huge, huge country. But it's not so evident. The danger is in part of Nigeria, is in Mali, where you have an United Nations peacekeeping force, and intervention of a direct intervention of French troops. There was an apprehension at a certain moment with the withdrawal of the USA from Afghanistan, that France also might withdraw, but it didn't happen. I believe it's not on the table anymore. Niger, there's some pockets there, which link here and there. We'll have to see how the situation of Qaeda and Taliban will develop in Afghanistan, and what impact it will have on the Sahel region. But I would not say that the continent itself is a terrorist place or is a place where terrorism is flourishing. Not at all.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Hani Abdelaziz, thank you very much for your fruitful input. We'll be right back after this, so please stay with us.
Egypt opens up to the world. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meets with world leaders.
أعبر لكم عن خالص الشكر والتقدير على حفاوة الاستقبال وكرم الضيافة.
Reaffirming Egypt's vision, delivering our voice abroad.
لتطوير التعاون الثنائي الاقتصادي والعسكري إلى مستويات غير مسبوقة.
Discussing regional and international developments. Solid and strong relations on the path of partnership and development.
Welcome back. We have with us on the line Dr. Ahmed Yassin from London, economic expert. Dr. Yassin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, yes.
Egyptian and European relations, how do you see them developing, and how do you see Egyptian-British relations developing in the aftermath of Brexit?
Definitely Egypt and British relationships, it will get a lot better than before Brexit, because like dealing between two independent countries will be a lot easier than dealing between Egypt and like a big group like the EU. Because when it comes to economic relationships between two parties, like the first party, if we have under its umbrella more than one country, like they have to agree between each other before they are able to submit their agreement to the other party. Adding to that, Britain after Brexit is looking to establish itself again as a superpower, especially from the economic side. And definitely Egypt, the British is looking at as one with great possibilities. I mean, there are, I can count few developments I have been following in Egypt for the last few years. Those developments definitely will help Egypt to like a big degree to establish itself as the main power in the Middle East. Like development number one, when Egypt successfully took the help from IMF with the amount of $12 billion. Certainly, these financial loans to Egypt, like accompany very big and strict conditions because IMF to agree to lend this big amount of money to any country. This agreement will accompany itself with very strict and strong conditions. They have to be met by the other party.
Yes.
And Egypt was able successfully to meet all the conditions of the IMF. And after that, Egyptian market was widely open to invest in the West. Because when they witnessed any country successfully met the requirements of IMF, that will encourage them to invest easily and freely and with big kind of investment. The second development we witnessed just recently when Egyptian government gave up emergency laws. Certainly this is a big step forward because, when it comes to not only Britain and mainly the EU, they will look at this development with very, very positive kind of side. Because one of the main hurdles the whole countries of the EU, they couldn't agree between each other to submit final agreement to the Gulf states to develop what we were expecting to be a free trade relationship between the two parties.
Yes.
So this development we witnessed from Egyptian government to give up emergency laws, definitely that will develop economic and political relationships with the EU to a greater degree in the future.
How do you see the impact of the free trade agreement on manufacturing, on import and export development in Egypt? How do you see that?
I see it as it is still in early stages because Egypt is a very big market. Definitely it is one of the biggest between all of its neighbors. And the EU is very close when it comes to geographical distance between Egypt and the EU.
Yes.
So the manufacturing and European investment in Egypt and what Egyptians can do to increase export to EU should be a lot better. I mean, if we mention few numbers, the Egyptian export to the EU still is not exceeding the level of about 4 billion a year, or for the last 8 months, the number reached the level of 4 billion. But if we compare that with last year, it was around the level of 2 billion. So there is improvement. But still, when we look at the two parties, Egypt, it's a massive country, big country, with a huge potential. They should be able to export a lot more to the EU because the EU is a wide market. It's about 500 consumers in the EU countries, and definitely they can consume a lot more from Egyptian export. So I see it as it is still in its early stages, but in the light of the political developments which witnessed in Egypt for the last few years, so definitely the relationships between the two parties, it is getting better and better, and it will reflect in more investments from the EU into the Egyptian market, especially after Egypt now has got the support of the IMF. And this is a huge, successful step towards having more investments from the Western investors.
Sir, the business investment opportunities, in your opinion, in Egypt, what is the European businessman looking for in Egypt, especially in the aftermath, or I can't even say in the aftermath, but in the COVID crisis?
Like Egypt as a country, when it comes to investments, because Egypt now, it is in excess of 100 million inhabitants. So it's a huge country, a huge potential. And if we reflect, or if we try to copy the experience of China with a huge, with its huge populations, of course not not to the level of Egypt. But if we just compare between the two experiences, the Chinese and the Egyptians, to a lesser stage, Egypt can copy paste the Chinese experience. They've got a huge sector of youth. It is highly educated and experienced. So why not Egypt try to attract investment from the Westerners to come and create their manufacturing unit in Egypt? This is exactly how it happened in China. That's part of the Chinese economic growth. So China using a huge in Egypt, exactly. But I think now we are still in the early stages, because definitely we have witnessed very substantial positive steps from the Egyptian government, and those steps will reflect to a better future for the time coming.
Dr. Ahmed Yassin, thank you very much for your input. We'll be right back. So please stay with us.
Egypt opens up to the world. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meets with world leaders.
وأعبر لكم عن خالص الشكر والتقدير على حفاوة الاستقبال وكرم الضيافة.
Reaffirming Egypt's vision, delivering our voice abroad.
لتطوير التعاون الثنائي الاقتصادي والعسكري إلى مستويات غير مسبوقة.
Discussing regional and international developments. Solid and strong relations on the path of partnership and development.
Welcome back. With us on the line is Dr. Tahir al-Sharif, who is former Secretary General of the Egyptian-British Chamber of Commerce. Dr. Tahir, can you hear us? Dr. Tahir, are you with us?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Sir, how do you see the future for Egyptian-British business relations? Britain's economy is really being tested after COVID-19, and it coincided with the Brexit. Can Egypt be a window of opportunity for the UK?
Definitely. The question is very much valid. As you may know, that the Brexit has been enforced in December 2020.
Yes.
And as far as I remember, that Egypt and the United Kingdom has gone through some negotiations to start a new era of free trade agreement. as you may know, that UK is the largest foreign investor in Egypt, especially in the area of oil and gas, banking, tourism, IT, and some other services. But ever since the Brexit took place, now the Egyptian, the Brits, agreed to go with the existing model of Egypt EU with some modifications. Those modifications have been already ratified by the two governments and the two parliaments. So the game must go on and the show must go on. And as you may know, that Egypt UK volume of trade is almost 2 billion sterling per year. About 1.2 billion UK exports to Egypt, and about 900 million sterling Egyptian exports to the UK. The most significant thing of those figures are that most of the British exports to Egypt are capital goods and intermediate goods needed for the industry and the investment development. On the other hand, the Egyptian exports to the UK are of high value added, I mean consumer products, mainly in the area of food and beverages, agricultural products, textiles, fertilizers, furniture, pharmaceutical products, cables, and astonishingly, Egypt is one of the major exporters of the power generators manufactured in Egypt. Manufactured in Egypt. But talking about those figures, I'm sure that those figures are still very modest and can be enhanced, can be developed to higher and higher volume of trade. But unfortunately, the trade relations between the two countries have been hit by 2 or 3 incidents over the past 10 years. The first hit came in 2011 after the instability in the Arab region, instability in Egypt, and the withdrawal of many of those exporters and importers to Britain. And in the meantime, the instability or the security instability at that time, which has been resumed and instigated after the election of the new regime and when President Sisi took over the power. But those hit really was very much influencing the figures between the two countries. The second hit was, unfortunately, during the pandemic and the COVID-19, which the whole world is suffering and still suffering. I'll give you just one example.
Dr. Taher, I have to wrap up in less than a minute,
EU,
please.
including the United Kingdom.
Yes. Sir, I have to wrap up in less than a minute.
Yeah. So I'm telling you something that,
Dr. Taher?
Due to the withdrawal of the United Kingdom from the EU, the FDI to European FDI to Egypt dropped from 3 billion per year down to 0.9 billion, which is almost 76%. That's due to the withdrawal of the United Kingdom out of the European Union and because of the Brexit. So how to regain our position? We have to be more, I would say, using our advantage in the European market, increase our marketing and trade missions, and those who are, trying to enlarge our
clearly taken.
position
Dr.
in the
Taher,
European market as well as the UK
sir,
market.
I'm going to have to wrap up. We ran out of time. I really apologize, but I have to wrap up here, and I wish you, the viewers, a very pleasant evening and good night.